get started. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us today for the next session of the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. This series is designed to help K-12 educators reimagine education with Blackboard's teaching and learning solutions. The K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series harnesses the power of our K-12 community of academic leaders, teachers, and other experts to provide relevant, real-time, on-demand, and ongoing professional development opportunities for K-12 educators. My name is Katie Gallagher. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Blackboard's Teaching and Learning Solutions and Products, and I'll be serving as the moderator for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. Thank you to Jenny Breister from our K-12 Field Marketing team, who will also be helping and supporting the session as the moderator this spring. We're always open to new ideas for topics for the series, so please let us know if you have an interest in presenting for a future session. Each webinar in this series, as you know, is recorded. You can search for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series playlist on the Blackboard TV YouTube channel, or easily navigate to tinyurl.com/K12 to access the series. After the webinar in a few days, you'll be receiving the recording as well as presentation slides in a PDF form by email, and you'll be receiving an invitation to participate in a professional learning community online that's designed to augment the series and create an avenue for ongoing collaboration and dialogue. So please accept this invitation and participate in the new online PLC. We've gotten lots of great feedback that many districts are taking advantage of the recorded series for on-demand professional development for their teachers, so we encourage you to share the series in any way that you can, from registration to recording. As you can see, we have many exciting professional development sessions lined up this spring. Please join us for a special session on Monday, Breaking Through the Bricks, Providing Student Feedback in an Online Environment with Claudine Townley. Actually, we have a session on Monday. I have these in the wrong order. We have a session on Monday with Maria Klinger, a sixth grade teacher, Spanish grade teacher from Arlington Public Schools, who will be presenting on enhancing middle school student experience and accountability using our Blackboard Achievements tool. And that's on Monday, February 23rd, coming up just this past Monday. So looks like I need to update this just a little bit. Actually, yeah, you actually have that. I'm sorry. And then finally, if you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Blackboard K-12 Live app for more professional development on demand. It's a free app available in Android and iOS, and all the sessions in this series can be accessed through the app, as well as the best sessions from Blackboard World this summer. So with that, I'll hand it over to our team of expert presenters today. I always like to flatter our experts with nice biographies. But we're going to have the group from North Carolina Virtual introduce themselves today. So thank you so much to the team from NCVPS, and we're very much looking forward to your session. Just as a housekeeping item before I hand it over, I'll ask everyone to just ensure your talk button is not selected unless you're going to speak up, and please feel free to use the chat. We want to make the sessions as interactive as possible. So thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you, Katie, for introducing us and for getting the meeting started, and thank you, Jenny, for having us, and thank you, everyone. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be taking a look at online instructional models and keeping the design process in mind. Just to give you a little bit of background, one thing that we pride ourselves in at North Carolina Virtual Public Schools is that we build many of our online classes from the ground up by ourselves. And that's part of the role that the four of us that are presenting today do for the organization. And we'll talk a little bit more about that throughout the presentation and as we go through introductions. But I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. And this is our agenda. Here's our agenda for the time that we have together. We'll begin with an icebreaker and meeting the presenters, and then jump into NCVPS's, or North Carolina Virtual Public Schools, course design model built upon four pillars: DuFour's questions, universal design for learning, revised Bloom's taxonomy, and differentiated instruction. So we'll detail all of those different theories and how they come into play into our the building of our content and the delivery of our courses. And we'll explore each of these pillars individually and then bring it all together and take a look at some of our best practices and examples. So we'll get to showcase some of the things that you'll see in some of our courses with NCVPS. And then we will end with the Q&A session. Here's information on your presenters. Starting at the top, this is myself. I'm Darlene Schaefer. I'm a curriculum instructional leader with North Carolina Virtual Public Schools. Part of our role, too, is all four also teach for the organization. I teach in the Occupational Courses Study Department. I teach Occupational Courses Study English 1. I also teach Credit Recovery English 3. Here's my Twitter account and email address. And then I'll allow for my colleagues to introduce themselves as well. Next up is the wonderful Natasha Whipple. Natasha, if you'd like to say hello.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here today. I work with these wonderful ladies as a curriculum instructional leader, and I've worked with Darlene especially on numerous projects. We've done OCS development together, and I have taught credit recovery, civics, and economics, and OCS American History 2 primarily while I've been at NCVPS. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ann Taylor.
Thanks, Natasha. Hi, everybody. We are excited to be here today. I am a curriculum instructional leader with these wonderful ladies. I also teach AP Physics 1 and am the course lead for that class. And I'm currently on the AP Physics 2 development team. My information is listed above, and I will go ahead and turn it to Brandy.
Thanks, Ann Taylor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brandy Thurman, and I currently teach OCS Applied Science, and I'm also a curriculum instructional leader with Ann Taylor, Natasha, and Darlene. And I'm going to turn it back over to Darlene. Thanks for being here.
Hey everyone, and I believe Katie will probably give us all access to these presentations. So we did include, you could see our contact information, Twitter accounts, so if you guys want to follow us on Twitter or in any way, if you want to communicate with us in any way as a follow-up, that'll be great. We're going to go ahead and move on to our icebreaker. So I'll kind of explain what we're going to do is I'm going to put in the chat and also ask you here 3 different questions. So first of all, just think in your head of a number from 1 through 3. So 1, 2, or 3, just get that number in your head. And I'll go ahead and type the prompts also in the chat right now as I kind of go over what you're to do. So if you chose 1, post in the chat your response to this question. What is one way we can enhance student learning? For the 2s, go ahead and post in the chat your response to this question. What is one way we can engage? What is one way we can engage students in learning? And then for 3, how do we enable students to learn in relevant, real-world, 21st century contexts? So go ahead and if you chose 1, go ahead and answer the very first one. What is one way we can enhance student learning? Okay, and then for the 2s, what is one way we can engage students in learning? All right, and you can press enter if you do type in the chat. And then last, for the 3s, how do we enable students to learn in relevant, real-world, 21st century contexts? Okay, so I gave an example there to kind of help you, and you can kind of think about these things too as we go through the process and the presentation today. All of these things that you guys we're going to talk about today, and perhaps things that you're posting or thinking about, they all incorporate the words of enhance, engage, and enabling and empowering students. So our goal in the design process is to create courses that empower students by providing our students with courses that are relevant, that immerse students in learning in real-world 21st century contexts, and that truly engage students in the learning process. So that's what we're trying to really do. We're trying to enhance the learning process. We want to enable students. We want to engage them so that they can be empowered to learn online. And that's very much a part of what Brandy, Natasha, and Ann Taylor and I do, is we help lead teams that are developing courses to think about these things, to think about these 4 E's as they develop. So to kind of ping off of that, and thank you for these responses. You offer alternatives. Excellent, Melissa. And we're going to talk about that today. That's kind of part of the Universal Design for Learning, which we'll discuss, is to offer alternatives. And then Cameron, make it relate to something that they're interested in. Very good. And that kind of, to me, ties right into differentiated instruction, which is definitely a part of our design process. So thank you guys both for posting your comments and responses. So here's an overview of our instructional design model. To kind of give you some background on NCVPS, is we teach such a diverse catalog of courses and such a diverse student population as well. I mean, we reach students throughout our entire state, regardless of their economic background, their geography. And if you know anything about North Carolina, we have a very diverse state geographically. We have the mountains all the way to coastal North Carolina, to the Piedmont, and everywhere in between. And much in the same way, our students are also a very diverse population. So what we try to keep consistent with our diverse catalog, which includes everything from world languages to advanced placement, computer science, to occupational courses study, which reach our most challenged learners in the state. One thing that we try to keep consistent is this instructional design model. So from course to course, you're going to see a very similar flow because we incorporate these 4 key philosophies. The first one that we'll talk about today is going to be DuFour's 4 critical questions. And so Brandy will talk about that shortly after. We also incorporate into our classes Revised Bloom's Taxonomy. So students actually move up the cognitive ladder as they work through a lesson within our courses. We also focus on the Universal Design for Learning, which I believe was mentioned or implied in our chat. I believe that was really good when Karen had mentioned that you incorporate student choice, because definitely that kind of goes hand in hand with the Universal Design for Learning, as well as differentiated instruction, which is also a critical piece in our instructional design model. So basically, these things are kind of they build the foundation, or they are the pillars that hold upon the foundation of our courses. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of go through each of these, and we're going to give you some examples and some snapshots from our courses that allow for you to see how we incorporate DuFour's Revised Bloom's Taxonomy, the Universal Design for Learning, and differentiated instruction into our process. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my wonderful colleague Brandy, and she's going to talk to you a little bit more about DuFour's 4 critical questions, and then to kind of showcase how that plays out into our courses. Brandy?
Thank you, Darlene. So our courses are designed with DuFour's 4 critical questions in mind. First, what do we expect our students to learn? Our courses are developed with a backwards design, so teams will evaluate their course content standards, the 21st century skills, themes, careers, the relevancy of the content to students' lives, and the context in which students will learn the standards when they're initially mapping out the course on standard mapping documents and when they're pre-planning for each module and lesson. And this occurs before the teams actually begin developing the content for those modules and lessons. We address what do students need to know in pre-assessments that gauge students' prior knowledge of concepts, and in our instructional notes and formative assessment. For question 2, how will we know that they are learning? We assess student learning through formative assessments that students take after they complete the notes, summative post-assessments at the end of each module, and through synchronous contact with students. Our courses are designed so that students have multiple means of expressing their understanding through assessments, formative and summative, as well as practice activities and assignments.
Question 3, how will we respond if they don't learn it? All of our assessments have specific and directive feedback that are built into the course, and our online teachers will also leave students specific and directive feedback as they complete those assessments. The courses are also built with a Take 2 remediation section with notes and assignments to reteach the content to students who aren't learning it. And since students didn't learn it through the original instruction, assessments, activities, and assignments, the Take 2 allows for students to learn it through a different instructional approach, and then have the opportunity to demonstrate understanding again through an alternate assessment or assignment. And our online teachers will also differentiate and individualize learning for students on a daily basis as well in their instruction. The last of DuFour's 4 questions: how will we respond if they already know it? Students in our credit recovery courses, those are students who have taken the course before, they have pre-assessments that allow them to test out of a topic if they have demonstrated understanding. And our online teachers also provide enrichment through feedback and daily announcements. Several of our courses also include additional resources in the teacher resource folder for online teachers to use to enrich learning for students. So this is an example of how DuFour's 4 critical questions are applied in our course design. This was taken from one of our occupational courses study courses. However, all of our courses are designed using this model. Students will begin a unit or module by taking a pre-assessment to see what they already know. The pre-assessment will assess student knowledge of the content that we want them to learn prior to them beginning the unit or module. Students will then move into the lessons, which are broken down into notes, completion or practice activities, assignments, and then the remediation Take 2 activities. And using backwards design planning and mapping out the standards prior to developing a module, developers have identified what we expect our students to learn in each module and lesson. The notes is where the initial teaching occurs. And after students have gone through those instructional pieces, they'll take a short formative assessment to assess their learning. Students will then move into their completion or practice activities and assignments to demonstrate understanding. And then after completing the assignment, students will take a post-assessment to again assess student learning of the concepts from that module. The remediation notes and activities allow for reteaching and additional practice activities for students who haven't learned it the first time around so that they can demonstrate understanding. And then another piece of how we will respond if students already know it are again those supplemental activities that may be included in the teacher resource folder. And these activities can again be used as enrichment activities for those students who already know it. There are a variety of activities and assessments within each lesson that allow the student to demonstrate understanding. For this particular lesson on air pollution, students played a hangman game to review the vocabulary for the lesson. Then they collaborated as a class to brainstorm ways we impact the air by posting to a Padlet. They were also able to complete 2 hands-on labs. One was an acid rain lab where they observed the effects of acid rain on limestone buildings, simulating that with chalk and carbonated soda. And they were also able to set up petri dishes around the school with Vaseline to collect particles from the air. Students were also given a choice of creating a PowerPoint on acid rain or creating a ToonView to demonstrate understanding. Our online teachers also use their daily teaching announcements and feedback to students to reteach and enrich. In this way, our curriculum and instruction really do work side by side. This is an example of a teaching announcement a teacher posted after students in the class completed the acid rain assignment. There was a review for those that might have been missing certain pieces on their assignment so they could go back and fix what they'd missed on their acid rain posters. And for those students who had mastered their assignment, the online teacher included an online interactive activity for students to continue learning about acid rain, while the other students worked on finishing up their acid rain posters. So this is just one of the pillars that we use to design our courses. And now I'm going to turn it over to Natasha, who is going to take a look at the UDL pillar.
so much, Brandy. So Brandy has gone over the first pillar of course design at NCVPS with you, the DuFour's model, and I'm going to go over the second pillar of course design at NCVPS, which is the UDL, or Universal Design for Learning. So what is Universal Design for Learning? Universal Design for Learning guidelines state that students need to see it, hear it, and do it in order to learn it and fully experience it. So during course development, we constantly consider how we are presenting content to our students. And we ask ourselves if we have provided students the opportunity to be engaged in the course according to those principles. We want to make sure we are providing multiple methods for students to interact, engage, and learn the content. We know kids do not all learn the same way, and the more ways we present the content, the more students we know we will be able to reach. So how do we make sure that students have that chance to see it, hear it, and do it? Each presentation that we use has audio to support the text for students. That's important to us because we know we can truly make the content or text come alive with a narrative for students to listen along to. We also include a lot of visuals and videos in our presentations, and we make sure that these visuals or videos truly support the student learning. We're not looking for something to just fill up white space. We really want what we're using to add to the audio or text in the presentation. And finally, our presentations incorporate U-tries or formative assessments to give students a chance to practice what they're learning. Presenting content according to UDL principles also helps students see how what they're learning can apply to their lives, which makes the material much more relevant. And research shows that when students can see how what they're using or how they can use what they're learning, they're going to be much more engaged and more likely to remember that information because they're truly connected to the material. So let's look at an example. This is a video, and I believe Brandy put this together. I recognized her voice, I think. So we're going to take a look at this example together of what a development piece looks like that's built on a UDL principle of multiple means of representation, expression, and engagement. So I'm going to put the link to the video in the chat, and I want you to kind of watch the first 45 seconds of the video. So go ahead and give me a green check when you have watched the first 45 seconds of video. Oh, not you, Brandy. I thought for sure I recognized your voice. So go ahead and give me a green check when you've watched that first 45 seconds. And don't forget to give me that green check. Looks like a few more people are still watching the video. Okay, I think just about everyone has watched it. So hopefully after watching this video, you can see that this presentation is about going over how to solve one-step equations, and this teacher has done a great job of having the students really see and hear what they want that student to learn. So it's much different than just presenting in a simple PowerPoint. Now I want you to go back to that same video, and I want you to go to the 13-minute mark and watch about a minute so you can see what do it part of UDL looks like. And give me another green check when you come back. All right, so it looks again like most people have watched that second part of the video. She did a phenomenal job of really giving the students an opportunity to attempt that problem and then going through that problem together with the student to see where the student had gotten that problem correct or where that student may need to work through in order to fix their own processes. So that video is a really great example of how NCVPS incorporates those UDL principles into our courses. So we've gone over DuFour's and we've gone over UDL, and next Ann Taylor is going to go over the last two pillars of course design. So I'm going to hand it over to Ann Taylor.
Thank you, Natasha. I am going to talk a little bit about Bloom's taxonomy. Another pillar of our course design process is the revised Bloom's taxonomy. When our developers work on the modules, we try to scaffold the learning for students from lower levels, such as remembering and understanding, to higher levels, such as evaluating and creating. Brandy actually shared this image with me. It's one that we use with training our developers that shows the type of assignments we have for each of these. So for the bottom part of the pyramid, we have remembering and understanding. These are your basics. This is to help us know, do the students understand? So this can be in our formative assessments. So a lot of the notes, such as like Natasha just showed you at the very end, we might have a check your knowledge where the students will answer questions so we know if they understood it. And then after we go through the instructional piece, we have practice activities. And that's where it would be applying and analyzing. And then after practice activities, we have assignments. So this is building upon what we talked about earlier, that our modules are consistent as far as we have our instructional pieces, practice, assignments, and remediation. The assignments, so as we go through the module, the learning, we should be going up this pyramid. And so by the time the students get to the assignment, it should be something where they're creating, evaluating, so it's at the higher level of Bloom's taxonomy. My next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about each, give you a few examples. So the basic ones would be understanding and remembering. And I have two different examples for that. The first one, and I'm going to do kind of what Natasha did and just give you the link in the chat. So for the first one that if you want to look at, you don't need to look at the whole entire lesson here, but if you go to the link that I put in the chat below, you can go to the very end and see that I believe it's, if you go to contents at the top, you can scroll down to page 10, check your knowledge, and you'll see that we have a diagram, a picture up. And below it, we have several questions for the students to answer. We don't have these count for the class that it's in. It doesn't count for a grade as far as this counts towards your total grade, but it does. The teachers can see it, the students can see it, they can take multiple attempts, and it helps the teacher know, did this student learn this material? So that's an example that we would use as an formative assessment and for the remembering practice assignments. Another one is understanding the preamble wordle. This is used for, I think this is for American history class. I think it might be OCS. And I can give you the link to the document right now as well. And for that one, for that one, they are going to create this Wordle, which is a website you can use, and you can create different shapes out of all these words. They're going to take the Constitution preamble, put it in there, and then they're going to look at what do they not understand from that? What words? So it kind of breaks it apart into words. What words do not make sense to them? And then they can take those words and figure out what they mean. So again, it's in your lower levels of Bloom's. So then a practice assignment needs to be a little bit higher. Practice assignment. So this can be analyzing. And I have an example here and this is actually the picture. I won't give you this link because the picture kind of goes through this as well. The students have a mosaic, and they walk through this learning object that I have up here, and each section they analyze it together, and they say, okay, now go and draw a picture to see what happens. So they're doing a little bit higher than just, okay, I'll remember this. They're actually having to apply what they've learned. And then the next and the very top would be creating and evaluating. And I have two different examples here. The first one is a colonial character voci. And I don't know if anyone in here is familiar. I know my other NCVPS people are, but if anybody's familiar with a voci, they're really neat. It's a website that there's a teacher version, but there's also a free version. I use that actually. I don't use the teacher version, where you can create characters and backgrounds, and you can give them voices and can say what they're going to say. Figure out what they're going to say, and I'm just going to get you the link real quick so you can see the assignment too if you want to. But what it is the students just are making they're getting to pick a side. Are they a lawyerist? Are they what side are they on? They will make a voci, and they have to use this voci to explain why they are on this side versus this other side. So they're creating. Another example could be used, and this is great in Blackboard or any other users that you use, can be a discussion board. So this example would be to design an experiment for this to find the spring constant. So the students would need to list the material that they use. They'd have to come up with the constants, the methodology, how are they going to do this? And then, so they're creating this, and then they can go back and evaluate other students, which is a really great thing, and especially for this one is used for the AP students, and the AP students, they really get into it. They're very it's all constructive criticism, and they can say, well, I like what you have, but it'd be better if you did this, or where's your control? So they're taking and they're evaluating and creating their own. So as we go through the different sections of our modules, from the instructional piece to practice to assignments, we are building upon the Revised Bloom's Taxonomy. And this is something that we we always want to see scaffold learning, and that's very important to us at curriculum, and that's what we're looking for in all of our classes. So I'm going to now turn it over to, I believe, Brandy is up next.
Thank you, Ann Taylor. So the fourth pillar of our instructional design model is differentiated instruction. Current technologies allow us to offer more than just a textbook online for our students. Our students can see it, hear it, read it, interact with the content that they're learning. As we develop content, we'll address different modalities, interests, and abilities of students. The three components of quality curriculum that Carol Tomlinson addresses in the dynamic curriculum are engagement, promoting understanding, and setting high expectations. With the design process in mind, our developers think about how they can incorporate these components into the content, how they can present the content in a more engaging manner rather than just a PowerPoint presentation, include relevant videos that would capture the students' attention, interactions, animations that the students can view. So our course design process involves incorporating different ways to address different modalities and make connections with students to promote understanding. Here's an example of instruction that has been differentiated in a particular lesson on the scientific method. So students watched a study jam video to introduce them to the scientific method. Study jam videos are animated videos. They interacted with the key terms with a flashcard activity. They also saw how the scientific method connects to their everyday lives by watching a video about the scientific method and how it can be applied to figure out why a flashlight's not working. They watched a Bosnian science video and a recorded PowerPoint that explained the key concepts of the scientific method as well. So if you want to take a look at this sample lesson and how we used multiple forms of media here and instruction to engage students and kind of differentiate instruction for students, the link is in the chat. So we've gone through each of the four pillars that our courses are built upon. Now Darlene is going to bring it all together for us.
Thank you so much, ladies. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to showcase what a typical lesson looks like. So we're going to kind of bring everything together. Remember, we're incorporating the universal design for learning. We want students to see it, hear it, read it, experience. We want active engagement where they move up Bloom's taxonomy period. We want to have collaborative elements, which kind of goes along with universal design for learning, along with differentiated instruction as well, where they get that opportunity to work along with their peers. So now I'm going to showcase what a typical lesson would look like step by step. So a lesson will bring it together. So this is from our Occupational Courses Study English class, and as we've mentioned in the presentation, as I've noted in the chat as well, our OCS courses are blended. So what that means is that the students have a classroom teacher who's working to facilitate, but then they also have an online teacher, and they also are taking the course online via Blackboard. So they'll do some things offline as well as online, which really is great, not only for universal design for learning, but to kind of adapt to the unique needs of occupational courses study learners who definitely need a high level of academic support. So in an OCS English class, students watch an interactive presentation and see and hear and experience a lesson on the elements of plot. So then they get a chance to show what they know with a formative assessment. So notice here how they have an audio. If you look to the right, there's an audio widget with all the directions. And then they have the video that they watch, and it's a soft chalk, very similar to the things that we've presented in the chat. And then they'll take a quick formative assessment to show what they know. So here they're getting the chance to engage with the content. They're following along with guided notes, which will help them learn the material, and then it's also something they can reference as they advance through Bloom's taxonomy. And then they get a chance to show us, did they learn it? So it answers that specific DuFour's critical question. So then after that, after the notes and formative assessment, students are granted the opportunity to practice, and they're granted multiple means to show what they know. So here you have an example, two different examples, should I say, where they first get to take a Jeopardy game using a learning object that's online and interactive, and then they get a chance to actually plot out a story that that they'll get a chance to listen to and view online as well, and they'll get a chance to download it, to download the plot diagram and map it out based on the notes that they just previewed earlier in the lesson. So then after they get a chance to practice, again, they're moving up Bloom's taxonomy. The students move up Bloom's taxonomy, and at mastery, they get the chance to create their own story following the plot devices they learn throughout the early stage of the lesson. So at the very beginning, they learn about the process. They learn about plot, and then they get a chance to practice. Do you understand this vocabulary? Can you identify it when you're viewing an example with a Langston Hughes story? And then they move up, and then at the assignment level, they're actually getting a chance to write their own. So that's and that is what this lesson assignment asks them to do. But remember, kind of going back to the four critical questions, what if they don't learn it? And often with our OCS students, and really any of our students from AP to credit recovery to OCS, often even if we move through the process, sometimes some of our students need a revisit. So one great thing that we have in all of our courses is a lesson remediation or a take two. So what we do with that is they get a chance to remediate through learning again. So they get a chance to look at a new set of notes in which the material is presented in a different way with different examples, and they get a chance to have additional practice. In this case, they do an interactive quiz game, kind of similar to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And students, and, Ann Taylor mentioned like AP students love these kind of things, OCS. Regardless of what their academic level is, students definitely like the chance to engage and to work on things online. And some of the games do have that collaborative and even competitive element, which they most certainly enjoy. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. That kind of gives you an example of how we bring together all of those elements, DuFour's, Bloom's taxonomy, differentiated instruction, and the universal design for learning to build our courses and content. And we hope our examples were able to kind of give you a snapshot of what we do. And at this time, we're going to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions, any comments, any concerns that you might have. And we'd also like to thank you guys for having us here this afternoon.
Thank you so much. This has been great. You can type questions in the chat, or you can use your talk button or unmute your phone to ask questions, but great. Thank you.
That's a good question, Melissa. We actually have, through our curriculum department, we own specific software that we use to develop it. So it's not a Web 2.0 tool. Ann Taylor, Brandy, or Natasha, are you familiar with that specific program that Jeff uses to create those pieces? But you can also create quite a few of those also in SoftChalk as well. Not those specifically, but games very similar.
There's another question in there about Wordle and Voki and other similar tools. Lots of great suggestions in the chat. Darlene and Brandy, Ann, would you be willing to say something about some of the tools that you're recommending in the chat?
Sure. One of the ones I mentioned is EDU Creations. This is to create screencasts. If you have a tablet, it's really great. You can download the app. I use it with my iPad, and I teach physics, so I can show students how to use problems, and it's easier than using my mouse because I have a little pen that I can use with my iPad, and that's really great. Some of the other ones that we mentioned are ToonDo, and that's where they can create different cartoons using based on the content, which I think students always think is pretty fun. Let's see the other ones I'm familiar with. I don't know if anyone else wants to introduce some of the other ones that you're using. Quizlet, yeah, Quizlet's great for quizzes and flashcards and everything like that. So I don't know if someone else wants to introduce a few of the other ones mentioned.
This is Katie Gallagher, and I don't think I've seen this in the chat from you guys, so you may not be familiar with it. But one that came up on another session of BITS that some teachers really liked is a tool called Explain Everything on the iPad to record flipped lessons. You know, if you have experience with that.
There's a really cool website, and I can't think of what the link is right now, but it actually lists Web 2.0 tools according to what Bloom's levels they assess on. I can always send that to Katie if anyone is interested in that. And it's been a great resource for me, particularly when I started at NCVPS, just getting acquainted with new Web 2.0 tools.
Okay, well, additional questions may be coming in the chat. Let's see, are there additional questions for the group? I don't want to close down too soon, but I do have a couple closing slides to do before we end. Are there additional questions or other examples of great tools and sites?
Well, another thing too, and it depends on the sort of Blackboard account that you have, but at NCVPS we also have built-in mashups within our Blackboard, so which kind of allows for us to embed audio, like we have an audio mashup, for example. I'm assuming if you guys have access to Blackboard Collaborate, you may have that as well, which is great for putting in an audio widget right into Blackboard itself. So those are some other examples beyond the tools, but all the tools that were mentioned were great. Yeah, and Brandy says like Kaltura is awesome. That's one of the best mashups that I find I have on Blackboard. But I'm not sure if everybody has access to that. I guess it just depends on how your accounts with Blackboard are set up. Yeah, thank you guys. Are there any other questions? Do you guys have any other questions regarding our presentation this evening or this afternoon?
I think Melissa's typing in the chat. While she's typing, you're correct, Darlene. Voice authoring is available to everyone, but not necessarily in everyone's environment right away. Video Everywhere, though, is a core tool that can be made available in the content editor for everyone. So just wanted to point that out to capture both audio and video. Great. Okay, and while we're waiting for other questions in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and move the slides forward just a couple more. Again, just a reminder, be sure to get the BB K-12 Live app. This session and other great sessions are available for on-demand, anytime, anywhere PD. Tell all your colleagues about it. It's a completely free app. And then just lastly, to close, want to encourage everyone to register for future sessions at bb.blackboard.com/K12bits. You can pick and choose sessions you'd like to register for, or register for the entire series in the spring. Jenny and I are always open to new ideas for topics you'd like to see presented. And you can always reach out to me on Twitter at onekatiegallagher.com or by email. You'll be receiving this recording and presentation slides in a few days. I just want to thank the presenters today for such a great session. We get a lot of views online as well, so I'm sure we'll get even more positive feedback after today. But thank you for such a great session to all the presenters.
This call is no longer